Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have Ron Haycock with us today. He's got some very interesting stories to tell. He's a very interesting man because he's done so many interesting things, and you can learn a lot from him. So, as you know, we're the Nest Egg Builder. We work with people who are interested in passively investing in commercial real estate or would like to learn how to do your due diligence so you feel comfortable about your choices of investments. And that's called the Investment Risk Advisor Mastermind, which is running at the 1st of April. So let me know if you're ready to sign up for that. And that's about it for us. But for Ron, I have this quote I pulled because I always like to find something that I think works with the person that's speaking. And it's that ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. And I think that really speaks for Ron. So let me tell you a little bit about Ron. Ron Haycock is an impressive individual with a wealth of experience in business, cross-cultural understanding, and community service. He has been married since 1979 and is, are you ready? The father of 9 children. Ron served in the
Wow.
Marine Corps from 1968 to 1972 as a public relations non-commissioned officer in Japan, where he fell in love with the culture and language. He later served as a church mission in Japan, becoming fluent in Japanese and translating Japanese for the nationals. Every week we discuss a different subject and provide tips. As experts, they answer questions which challenge you, and you should ask questions about finance and real estate. So today I'm presenting Ron Haycock. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please take it away.
Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate that. So, when others come on, if they come on, will we see them then as they come on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, just to also let me give you a little bit of background. I was just telling Peggy about this. I've been a real estate investor and involved in real estate since 1977. I bought my first commercial property, which was a cemetery. And we always tell them that I always tell people that my clients were just dying to get in, right? And then we sold the cemetery, and I went to work. I've worked for a title insurance company. I've owned 2 title insurance companies. I've owned an escrow company. The escrow company went out of business in 1982 because the market was really rough back then, and the government's insurance rate went clear up to the past 20%, and we just had a tough time. So our clients couldn't buy any properties, so they raised a bunch of money and sent me traveling in different countries and also around the United States just to see if I could find them some private money. While I was gone, our corporate treasurer embezzled $150,000 of trust funds, right? And so the government doesn't say we'll find out what's going on, we'll fix it. They say you're out of business, then we'll figure it out. And they put us out of business, then they discovered that it was our treasurer that embezzled the money, right? So at that point, I went to work for the LDS Church as a welfare construction auditor. I have a degree in business administration. I studied I studied forensic auditing with the American College of Forensic Auditors, right? And so I'll show you some of these things now. So I'll share my screen with you. That's some of my background. I've been in real estate a long time. Uh, I've owned, in addition to the escrow company, I've owned 2 title insurance companies. I've owned an insurance agency, had 12 agents working for us, and I was a mortgage broker for 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with the real estate market. What I'm going to discuss today is not only just with real estate, but it's with business in general. And Steve, you'll recognize some of the things we're going to talk about because there are some rules in business that if you're going to be in business and do what I'm going to suggest, that you have to follow it. And the one main rule that we have to follow is what they call related parties. And that's one of the things that I'm concerned with, to make sure that the clients do what they're supposed to be doing and stay within the rules. I always tell them, if you start doing things and not listening to me, I'm going to quit working for you, because then you'll get both of us into trouble. Okay, so let's show you here. So that, let's go down here. There we go. This is our tagline: own nothing, control everything. That's what John Rockefeller said. But just for your information, I actually wrote a book with that same title. And I asked an attorney once if I took some classes learning about copyrights and trademarks and registered names and so on. And I said, can I copyright this book? I was teaching some classes at a prison, and there was a lot of Japanese people in there. That's where I did a lot of translating for the Japanese. But I said, can I copyright this? And he said, do it and see what happens. So I filed the copyright. So I think that I actually now own something that John Rockefeller created. Now, if you've got questions, I want you to speak up, okay? But I'm going to do more than just talk. I'm going to ask you guys questions as we go along. All right? Now let's see if I can get this to go here. How come it's not going? For some reason it's not moving. All right, now let's see if I can get it to work. No. It's not moving, huh? I wonder how come that's. Peggy, you have any idea why it's not moving? Let's see if I can get back out of here just a second. Let's stop my share, find out why it's not moving. All right, I'm gonna hit the slideshow, right? I'm gonna hit the slideshow. There we go. And I'm gonna hit the slideshow from the beginning. All right, there we go. This is what I was going to talk about. All right. Now I got to get back in here because I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry about the mix up here. I thought I had everything in place. All right. So we're going to go here to the slideshow from the beginning. All right. Good. All right. I think we've got it now. Anyway, when I give other seminars, and I've done that before, it's not letting me move. I don't know why it's not. There we go. All right. When I give other seminars, and I've given seminars in many states, but when I give these seminars, I like to do an interactive, so I don't want to just talk. I'm probably very boring. All right. One of the things I also like to do is to tell stories. But this is here my my training, my professional organizations. Belong to the AICPA. I belong to the National Society of Accountants. I belong to the National Business Managers Credit Association. Okay. And I also belong to the NFIB, which is the National Federation of Independent Businesses.
Is AI CPA meaning artificial intelligence CPA?
Probably most times it's the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
Okay.
I'm sure that Steve belongs to that, don't you, Steve?
He does.
All right. So, and I'm also an affiliate with Universal Accounting. So a lot of our bookkeepers, we try to help some of the newer bookkeepers, the newer people coming on, and a lot of them don't have a lot of experience. I really like QuickBooks in the books that we do with, And I have a desktop QuickBooks, which is better, and the QuickBooks is trying to get rid of that. And then I also do that. So we train our clients through the Universal Accounting. I'm one of their affiliates, and the president of that company and I are good friends and have done a lot of work together. Okay. So just for my background here, so you can see, and Peggy's already told you a lot about it, right? So I was in the Marine Corps during Vietnam. Gratefully, I never had to go to Vietnam. They sent me to Japan. I've been involved in politics for a while. I was actually the campaign manager for the mayor when I first moved to Layton, Utah, where I'm from. I was his campaign manager, and then was the first director of the Layton Civic Arts Association when that was formed back in 1978. The picture on the over here on this side you can see is my family. I've been married for, Peggy said I was married in 79, actually married in 78. We've been married for 46 and a half years. We have 9 children and 22 grandchildren.
Oh,
So now I've been in business for myself since 74. I actually started, when I was 12 years old. I've always liked being in business. I always wanted to be there by myself. So I see that little with Jay Miller up there. Jay, is that something that I've astonished with something I've said? So anyway,
Yeah, the 22 grandkids got my attention.
so this little store you see here with the 2 gas pumps in front was the first real business that I bought in 1974. I was on the Fort Hall Indian Reservation in Fort Hall, Idaho, and thought I had the world by the tail. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Didn't realize how much I didn't know. And I find that out when I'm working with a lot of our clients today. So much in business they don't know. Okay. This is our main management team now, right? This is our company's CFO. Of course, I'm the senior accountant and the CEO of the company. This is our tax manager. He's a CPA and lives in Houston, Texas. This is our company attorney and also a trust attorney, because we help our clients get into trusts as well, right? This is our national sales director, our marketing manager. This is our accounting department manager. This guy is a CPA also, and runs our financial planning department. And this guy runs our website, and this is our processing manager. He lives here, and these 5 live here, and she does too. But these 2, actually, it looks like everybody lives here in Utah except for Ravi, who's the head of our tax department. Now, what we believe in, can you guys see the bottom of my screen, or is the pictures taking up the space where we can't see things? Can you see the bottom of the screen, Peggy? Okay, looks like Jay says that she can do that. Okay. All right, so
3 CFOs and the 7 SCAs at the bottom of the screen, yes.
okay, so we have right now on staff, this is just in Utah. What we're trying to do from in all areas is to build an organization. We call it a consortium of licensed and credentialed professionals with one thought in mind, and that is to use our talents to help small businesses. Our mission statement is provide for the small business owner the benefits of the wealthy without having them pay what the wealthy pay for those benefits. I've found that a lot of the professionals don't want to work with this market because they can't afford to pay very much. So we don't make a lot of money from our clients, but we do try to help them out. Okay. And we teach them and do a lot of these things. Now, with all of this stuff here, we assign everybody 3 CFOs and 2 CSA is a corporate strategic advisor, a mentor, somebody that works with them on a regular basis. And we suggest, because of our pattern, we call it the O.N.C.E Cashflow Strategy, is unique enough that we need to make sure that they follow the rules. The thing that's going to get anybody in trouble with the IRS is not following the rules and not understanding them. And then we also have, I just added two new CFOs. And we can work all across the United States, which is what we do. And what we do is we meet with our clients every 3 months, once every quarter, to go over finances, go over their income, go over their expenses, but more than anything else, do tax planning. So at the end of the year, there's no surprises. And we also provide bookkeepers and legal processors. What we say here is we have a team that I just showed you, Debbie Fa in Oregon. We have a team of about 5 or 6 individuals supervised by an attorney that prepares all the legal documents that we need to do to put the organizations together and make sure that they're connected. So what I'd like to know from anybody here, well, that's not what I want. There we go. I don't know how I did that. But what I'd like to know from everybody is, in business, what is it that protects somebody in business? Can you tell me that? What do you think, Gary? What protects somebody in business? Is it calling yourself an LLC or a corporation? What protects you?
Well, that's part of it.
Okay.
You need to be in a corporation or a LLC or some sort of a,
Is just calling yourself an LLC or filing with the state as an LLC, do you think that that is sufficient?
you can't call yourself a LLC. You have to create an operating agreement and have a business plan and all those things that go with it.
Correct. It's the formalities. It's the paperwork. That's what protects you. It's just calling yourself. I have a guy I was teaching one of those classes I was telling you about, and we were going around the room talking to everybody what they were doing. And I said to him, I said, "What do you do?" And he said, I'm a pilot. I said, "Okay." I said, "What kind of a structure do you have?" And he said, "I'm a corporation." I said, "Great." I said, "Who's the shareholder?" "I am." He raised his hand. I said, "Okay. Have you ever had any shareholder meetings?" "No." "Well, who's chairman of the board?" "I am." "How did you get there?" "I appointed myself." "Well, who's the officer?" "I am." "Are you the only one?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What?" I said, and he said, "President." You see what's happening here? He's not using the formalities. He calls himself a corporation, but he doesn't act like one. In the related party rules, it said you have to separate yourself. You cannot have everything just moving back and forth and doing things without having documentation, paperwork. There's got to be a legal reason. You've got to treat each entity that you own and yourself as separate and independent, and you can't treat anybody else or yourself any differently than you would treat anybody else on the outside of your organization. And so it's the formalities, it's the paperwork. I always tell my clients that the IRS likes to kill trees. They like paperwork. Okay. Oh, now I'm doing that problem, going through that problem again. What's happening here? There we go. Okay. So here are the biggest reasons that most people want to be an entrepreneur. And you guys are all entrepreneurs, your own business owners. Okay. You may only own real estate, but that is a business. Now, I noticed on Peggy's sign on the background, and it says, it talks about passive investing. What I want to talk to you about is more than just passive investing. I want to have you become an active business owner that owns real estate. So therefore, the income coming in it is just not investment income. It's ordinary income and ordinary expenses. So you treat your real estate, you treat your holdings like a business. And most people want to do this in order to have autonomy and to increase your earnings, but use your business also, if you do it correctly, can reduce your tax liability and protect you and your family and all your assets. And that's where we're going today, okay? So this is what I was saying. The little guy on the right, on the top left-hand side here, calls himself a business, calls himself an LLC. No foundation, no support, no structure. That's what protects you. Otherwise, you're just wide open. Okay? So, if you want to have the protection of a formally owned business, you have to do everything for the business, inside the business, in the name of the business. It's the formalities, right? The business cannot treat the owner outside any differently than it treats anyone else. And so what we do is that you go inside the trailer. Everything you do is inside the trailer. But once you go outside the trailer and you call yourself, you say that you're a trailer, but you've got just a pup tent, you don't have the same protection. And that's where we're trying to lead people, okay? So the biggest problem is this. When I had my own business, I had to have an accountant. I needed to know my numbers. I needed to know where I was at, right? And then I needed an attorney. I needed good legal advice. I needed to know what was going on. I started that. That's my structure. One of the things I had to learn later was that not only did I have to have that, but I needed an estate. I was building an estate. If I died, what happened to my business? We believe that your estate needs to be an owner of the business with you. And by doing that and using a trust to do that, you can keep your business going after you die without probate. Because the business, the trust can continue operating, right? And you guys are the management. But most small business owners I've discovered don't really understand business. They understand what they do, but they're not trained in businesses. And we want to see if we can fix that. And every one of them, look at them from different angles. So when I went to my accountant and got advice, and then go to my attorney and ask him the same question or similar question, I often got conflicting advice. I didn't know who to believe. What we want to do is to make sure that I wanted to not be a hobby business. I wanted to understand the businesses. Why? What do I use? For instance, a lot of corporations, and I don't know, Steve, if you do this, but a lot of corporations or a lot of companies recommend, if you're especially a single owner business owner, that you be an S corporation. Our company doesn't like S corporations. I've done a deep dive into S corporations. There are 23 tax disadvantages for S corporations. But if you want to maximize your tax benefits, if you want to maximize that, you've got to be able to use more than one business for everything. You know what I'm saying? You've got to work together. Oh, okay, we'll get this off to the side here.
What does that mean, you have to work together?
You've got to be able to have, for instance, you've got a C corporation, and it's taxed a certain way, correct?
Yes.
And it has formalities it has to follow, but it has disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is if you don't do it correctly, we call it double taxation.
Mm-hmm.
Our shareholders receive dividends, and it's not a tax write-off for the corporation, so the corporation pays on that, and the shareholder also pays on it, right? And then the LLC has advantages and disadvantages, but we believe that if you take these different businesses and work at least two of them together, they can offset each other's disadvantages and maximize your protection and maximize your tax. And we also believe that a family trust, and not an irrevocable trust in most cases, a revocable living trust is the most important thing, because that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to pass by probate. That's what's going to continue on after you die for the benefit of your family. And then the assets are going to be included in not just the trust, but in everything else. And I'll show you how that works out here in just a second, okay? All right, so what we want to do is have you say, which one am I going to use? Am I going to use all of them or just one? And then I say, don't forget the KISS principle. Jay, do you know what the KISS principle is?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Add your adjective.
Well,
Silly, sweetheart.
whatever you want to, right? My wife doesn't like me calling anybody stupid. So the actual phrase is keep it stupid, keep it simple, stupid, right? But because she doesn't want me to tell anybody they're stupid, and on occasion I've told them that because they are stupid, right? I always tell my clients, I'm going to be a nice guy. I'm going to tell a joke once in a while, but if it's an ugly baby, I'm going to tell you it's ugly. Okay? So instead of calling it keep it simple stupid, I say keep it stupidly simple. Dumb it down. Make it easy to start the business, easy to manage the business. But when you're done, something comes after you, easy to get out of the business without losing everything. Okay? We don't want you to lose things. Oh, now I'm done it again. Every time I put this here, I can't get in and move it. I don't know why it won't let me do that. There we go. Now, our belief is that you cannot maximize your tax deductions or business opportunities with just one structure. We believe you got to have at least 3, and I'll show you those in a minute, and get them to work together so that they're independent and separate, but they support each other, and they support each other by contracts. Okay? Now, like I was just asking Jay a few minutes ago, what in business protects you, or Peggy, right? It's the formalities. You keep the funds separate from your personal funds. And the only way that you move funds between entities is by contract, by a legal reason to do so. Okay? And you keep separate meetings, you have written agreements, you keep corporate minutes, the formalities, right? It's very important not to failure, right? We can't stress highly enough that failure to observe and implement the formalities will diminish and mitigate any of the protections you've got. We want to see if we can change that. Now, when you're doing those things, because we went back and we looked at the organizations, most people don't know the difference between a C corporation and an S corporation, right? Like I just told you, we believe in corporations to a point. S corporations, until you're very wealthy, we don't recommend S corporations. Okay? There are 23 reasons not to use an S corp. And if any of you would like me to, I will be glad to send you any of the documentation for any of these things that I'm teaching you. Okay? I've done a lot of research on it. Let's talk about a limited liability company. Okay? We've got the C corporation. Let's see if I can go back here. We did the C corporation just a little while ago. Let me go back. Right? We have a C corporation, but you've got to know how to use the C corporation. How is it organized? How is it structured? And even though you might be a single member LLC or a single person owner of an S corporation, you still now, by the IRS, are considered a corporation. So if you are a single member LLC filed in your state as an LLC, a single member LLC, the minute you get a status as an S corporation, the IRS now considers you a corporation. And you have to use the formalities. You've got to have board meetings. You've got to have shareholder meetings. You've got to issue the shares. You've got to have officers. All of those things are really important. Okay? So now let's talk about LLCs. An LLC is good for entrepreneurs if they understand them. Okay? Now, in a single member LLC, who pays the tax? Anybody can tell me?
Yeah, the person that is it goes down to the individual.
Right. It is actually filed on your 1040 on your personal tax return.
Exactly.
And so because of that, filed on the the IRS does not consider you an LLC. It considers you a sole proprietor. And the law doesn't consider you that either. They consider you an alter ego. A sole proprietor, you're an alter ego. You have no structure, no formation. You call yourself an LLC, but that's the roof only. There's no structure, right? But multi-member LLCs, right? Who pays it on there? The owner does, but multi-member sense, all the owners do. It's pass-through. LLCs do not pay their own tax. Corporations pay their own tax. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sole proprietorships. A lot of people are sole proprietorships, right? That means one person own it. Now, anybody or any legal entity can own a DBA, or in other states it's called an ABN, assumed business name. And it's just a separate business. So a lot of businesses out there, especially corporations, will say, well, I want to do this over here, and so I want this type of identity. And then I want to do something over here, so I want this type of identity. So they form DBAs to give them different identities for different businesses that they're involved in. Okay? But what's the risk? The risk is the sole proprietor, if they come after him, will lose everything that they own.
That's right.
Right? So like I said, the thing that makes this work is the related party transactions. It's related parties. We do not want you to be an alter ego. We don't want you to be have a conflict of interest. Okay? Transactions between related parties should be treated and documented. It can't, as known by the court, taking money from one corporation, giving it to another will almost always trigger bad tax consequences, unless done thoughtfully, in other words, properly. It can be done, but there's got to be a legal documented reason. Okay? So let's talk about some of the things you can benefit from having the organization. First off, if you do it correctly, you can have a home office deduction. That's what most accountants will do. Our belief is that not only do you do a home office deduction, but if you do this correctly, right, your business can own 100% of the house and have it a business asset. And then you treat that business asset as a business. So another question real quickly, does anybody, and Steve, I'm not sure, you can answer if you want to, but what is a capital asset? What has to happen to capitalize an asset? Can anybody tell me?
For one,
What?
needs to be income,
So a capital asset is an asset
right?
that earns money for the business,
Exactly.
right? So I'm going to show you how to make your home a capital asset for.
And then do you 1031 that when you
No.
want to get out of your home?
No, you don't. There's some other things, but if you want to sell the home in there, there is some formatted things you have to follow, right? And I can do that, and I can tell you that in person, but that would take too much time to explain that here. You can sell your home after it's in the business, and if it stays in the business, then you have to make that's going to be ordinary income and can be reduced by ordinary losses, or you can get it out of the structure if you do certain legal things that we've been taught to do by our attorneys. If you do it that way, then you can actually get the home back and sell it on your own as your personal residence if you've lived in the home for 2 out of 5 years, and get $250,000 deduction for husband and wife. Okay? So here's what we also want to do when you own your own home is you have these expenses, every one of them you've got to take care of. You've got a house payment, or if you're renting, you've got rent. Everybody has these expenses, right? You've got your house or office maintenance. You've got utilities of your home. You've got all of your automobile expenses for all of your cars, right? You have interest on your credit cards. You've got interest on auto purchase. You've got interest on your home. You've got also then to be considered employment taxes. Are you going to be a contractor? Or are you going to be a W-2 employee? And you need to take into consideration depreciation. When you have, let me go back here real quick. When you have just a home office deduction, you can only take a percentage of your home and depreciate your house value based on the percentage, and the same way with utilities, right? But if you go and you do all of these things here and make these expenses business expenses and own the house, your business can pay for all of those things. Okay? We want to be able to show you how to take your expenses. I don't know why I can't get this out of the way. Can you guys see that one? Because I've got a bar down there, and every time I hit the
Yeah, we
button,
can see it.
okay, you can pay many of your household expenses legally and ethically if it is documented, if you are structured correctly. Okay? All right.
Yeah, when you go to sell it, you depreciated the house. Now you have to recap that depreciation.
No, you don't. And there's ways to get to do that. You can do it where you don't recapture. In fact, it was taught to me by an IRS auditor once how to do that. He said, you have the structure, and normally we put it into an LLC. You have the LLC, and remember, you and the LLC are separate individuals,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the LLC writes you a letter because they have a contract with you to buy the house.
Right.
And they write a letter to you saying, we are abandoning the house. We can no longer afford it. You then respond saying, we will accept the abandonment. And what you've done is when you transfer the house into the LLC, you're not doing it for cash. You're exchanging your equity in the house for equity in the LLC. And so when you get it back, you're now just taking your equity back out of the LLC for whatever the book value is at that time. And so the depreciation stays, but the asset leaves. Okay?
Or do a foreclosure and get the step up on it.
No, you don't have to do that. You're just canceling a contract.
Right, but if you do the step up, then when you go to sell the property, you won't have a large capital gain.
You're not going to have any capital gain at all if you and your husband sell it together because you get a $250,000 each.
That's not enough.
Well, at that point, then you have to pay the different taxes. Okay, but you don't have to worry about recapture depreciation, and you get to write off at least $500,000. Now you can also take your assets, your house, your cars, furniture, all of those things, and make them capital assets. Right? If
Mhm.
financial accounting, an asset is an economic resource owned, right? It's a tangible or intangible that can be controlled to produce value by for the company. That's called a capital asset. You can do the same thing that you're doing with your house with all your cars and your furniture and all of your business equipment can be exactly the same thing. Okay. Now, second example.
Okay, so we have a question because we thought you were only going to be 20 minutes, so we only have 20 minutes left. So what Eugene's asking if on the house thing, what you just talked about, does this only work if you own the home free and clear?
No, it does not.
So you could have debt on the home?
Yes, and the reason you can do that and not have to worry about foreclosure by the bank, what they call it due on sale, is because there's a law out there called the Graham-Stedman Act that says if you are doing the transfer to something that you control, especially a trust, you can do so without triggering the due on sale clause because you're doing it for estate planning purposes.
And the IRS doesn't have a problem with that.
No, not at all. If it's documented, you've got to have legal documents. Remember, it's got to be the separation. So
Well, we
you
know why
cannot,
you should hire your kids.
you are a separate individual. Your LLC is separate. Anything else that you have is separate from you, and they're separate from each other. So when you're in there in that house and the LLC owns the house, you're actually going to pay rent on that house because you don't own it any longer. That's how you get to stay there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about your kids here, hiring your children. Everybody knows this, but your children can work for you if they're under 18 years old and they have to do a regular job, so they have to be considered old enough to do something, but they can work for your company and help you in the company. I remember during tax season when my children were younger, and my 9 children, back when I was doing this, we only got $3,000 per child. Now they're getting, I think it just went up, but I think at least it's $12,500 is what I've been working with. But you can get that and pay the children for their work. You would then issue them either a 1099 or a W-2, but they don't have to pay the taxes. And you get to write off that entire amount. Your business writes that off as an expense. And the tax
So
attorney,
if they're making $15,000 a year, they don't have to pay taxes on $15,000?
they have to pay, they don't even have to file if they're working for a wholly owned family business.
Well, that's even better because then they can get because they've got a job, they can open their Roth IRA and they can pay for their whole life insurance policies
You
out
are
of it.
exactly correct. But here's what we suggest, and this is what was taught to me by a good tax attorney. He said, and back then it was only $3,000. He said, take half of that and you get it as room and board. You don't have to declare that as income. Take the other half, give the child $100 or $200 a month. They'll be in Fat City, right? And then take the rest of that and put it into a savings account that will pay for their education as they grow older. And they don't have to take the taxes out then because it's after tax dollars.
Right? They can open their own 529 or Coverdale.
That's correct. Or an IRA, like you said. That's exactly correct.
All of them.
Mhm.
They're making that kind of money. They can afford all of them.
That's correct. You can do all of that. So what I used to do is when my kids would work for me and they would have regular things that they had to do because our LLC owned the house and we had other things like that, we would actually go when they wanted to play basketball. I'd write a check out for the basketball to be able to play it. That was their payment. I would pay for their school fees. I would pay for activities that they wanted to be part of. That's how I paid them. That's the money that they got for their own use. Then the balance of it went into a savings account or an IRA for them.
Does
Okay?
anybody have any questions while we're right here at this little bit of a break? Nope. Okay, carry on, sir.
Okay. All right. Now let's take a business and make it look like a cardboard box. All businesses, right? You earn money. The money goes into the top of the box. Everything else is solid around it. It's got four sides and the bottom. In a corporation, the bottom is solid, but in an LLC, the bottom has a hole in it. During the tax year, the hole is plugged, right? So if money goes into the LLC and then as you pay bills, the money comes out of the LLC. Anything left over in the bottom of the box, the corporation pays the tax on it. It's self-contained. But the LLC pulls the plug, and then the owners take the money out of the box and they declare that on their personal income tax as self-employment tax. That's one of the things that S corporations are good for is to reduce self-employment tax or get rid of self-employment tax. Okay, so corporations are self-contained. They pay their own tax. Okay, but LLCs and proprietorships and partnerships and all these things are passed through. The individual pays the tax on it. Okay, that's what we want to see if we can help you with so you don't do that. So how do we do that? Here's how we do a lot of our tax planning, right? First off, we're going to have expenses. That's how you get rid of it. So you have two types of expenses, cash, right? And non-cash. And non-cash is depreciation. Depreciation of the house, depreciation of the furniture. And you get to now depreciate all of them 100% because they have become capital assets. Okay? And what we do now is do this a little different. This is our tax planning. The corporation it's self-contained. It's not a pass-through. It pays its own tax. But corporations can have any tax year that it wants to. We call it a fiscal year. And in our company, for our clients, we usually set up fiscal years, April, July, October, the beginnings of each quarter. Okay. We suggest, and there are certain times you don't have to, but most times a limited liability company should be not a fiscal year, but a calendar year, January through December. And those are the two companies that we suggest that work together, because corporations are taxed certain ways and have advantages and disadvantages. LLCs have advantages and disadvantages, and the corporation's advantages can outweigh the LLC's disadvantages, and the disadvantages of an LLC, or the advantages of the LLC, outweigh the corporation's disadvantages. So we use them together. And we have the trust is the only shareholder of the corporation, and no dividends are paid. And then the trust is only a 10% owner of the LLC, but the only contract it has outside the home is with the corporation. That's the only way that the corporation and the LLC can work together, is if they have contracts, if they have agreements and they follow them. And so there are 3 agreements that the corporation is going to have with the LLC, because the LLC owns all the assets. First is, it's going to rent the cars, all of them. And the husband and wife are going to be elected by the trust, because the trust is the only shareholder. The formality is the trust holds a shareholders meeting. And because it's going to hold a shareholders meeting, it's going to, the trustees are, and the grantors are the husband and wife. They set up the trust, but they appoint themselves as the trustees. And they put the trust together, and then there's successor trustees in case the husband and wife pass away. Initially, we wanted to use a living trust, a revocable trust, because it's changeable. And for that reason, we put no assets into the trust except ownership of the companies. And so the corporation itself owns nothing, has no assets, but it rents the cars and the furniture and the house, 2 different contracts to do that from the LLC. So the LLC now is getting rent from the owner and rent from the corporation, thus making it a capital asset. Then, after that, it's also going to have, it's going to pay for all of the gas, just like going down to Enterprise Rental and renting a car. The corporation's going to be renting a car. It's not going to own a car, so it's not going to be an owner car. Therefore, a mileage log is not even required, because it's a car, and the owners of the corporation allows the husband and wife, because they are executive officers, to drive a rented car. And that then becomes so that it's not taxable to the individual, and the usage of that, the oil, the gas, the tires, all the maintenance, stuff like that, that is now the responsibility of the corporation by contract. And we have those contracts that we use, and they pay all of those use expenses and pay a rent for using that car to the LLC. But the LLC, because it owns the car, depreciates 100% of the car, because it is now 100% a capital asset.
Okay,
Okay,
anything else?
all right,
We're at the top of the hour.
all right. So real quickly, the LLC is a pass-through. So what we want to do is to reduce it. So the LLC's tax year is a calendar year. If we have the cash come in and we pay expenses for that, if there's any extra money left over in the bottom of the box, so the owners don't have to pay the tax on it, they have a contract. We call it a management and marketing agreement, where the LLC has done things for the corporation. So the corporation sends an invoice to the LLC pays money to there, so that there's no cash profits left over. And then all of the assets put the LLC at a loss. And that loss then is passed on to the owner, and they show that loss on their tax returns. And that will help them reduce any W-2 taxes that they may have paid in the past. So that's basically the idea, fiscal year and a calendar year, okay?
Mhm.
So to end this, Peggy, I'm gonna just tell a real quick story, if you don't mind. Okay, there's this old farmer. He had a farm that had been passed down from generation to generation. And he didn't have any posterity. So he was going to sell the farm. So he went out, cleaned up the fields and the orchards and everything else, and tried to sell the farm, but nobody would buy it. And the reason for it was it had a dry well and it had an old donkey. And he didn't know what to do with either one of those. And so one day, the donkey fell into the well. Now the donkey in the well couldn't get out, and the farmer said to himself, "Good, we'll just take care of these things with one swoop." So he called all of his friends in, started throwing dirt into the well, and started covering up the donkey. Well, the donkey was stupid, but it wasn't stupid. He was old, but he wasn't stupid. So he knew exactly what the farmer was trying to do, put up a fuss, but it didn't last very long. The farmer looked into the well to find out what was happening. Shovel full of dirt goes in. The donkey just shakes it off and steps up. Another shovel full of dirt lands on the back of the donkey, shovel full, and just shakes it off and steps up. 2 hours later, donkey walks out of the well. Moral of the story is we are entrepreneurs. Life's going to throw dirt on you. Shake it off and step up. But the donkey was old, yes, but not stupid. He knew exactly what that farmer was doing. He sought him out, bit him on the behind as hard as he could bite. The bite became infected. The old farmer died. Moral of the story, you make a mistake and try to cover your ass, it's going to come back to bite you in the end. Thanks, Peggy.
All right. Funny, funny, funny. Thank you very much for that presentation. And that's great. So does anybody have a question or a thought? Because I came up with, it looks like a lot of bookkeeping,
Well, that's why we have bookkeepers.
right? That is a lot of bookkeeping. You have to
Could
do
be.
the bookkeeping on the people, you have to do the bookkeeping on the trust, you have to do the bookkeeping on the corporation and the bookkeeping on the LLC. So
Well,
you
the
have
trust,
five
remember,
bookkeepings you have to do.
no, the trust makes no money.
You still have
The
to do
trust is there.
bookkeeping on it.
It doesn't need any bookkeeping. If it doesn't make any money, you're not going to file any taxes. The trust is there for control and purposes only. It controls the corporation, and it is a minor owner for posterity's sake for estate planning of the LLC. Makes no money, receives no dividends, earns nothing.
And the owners, the people own both of the LLC and the corporation there.
Right? With
So
not the
they get
corporation.
the
They don't
income
own the
from,
corporation, Peggy. The trust owns the corporation. They don't own it. Own nothing. The
so where does the
corporation,
money go?
the money goes into the corporation. That's what's earning the money. The corporation earns the money, pays it to the LLC either by renting an office in the home or renting the equipment and the cars and everything from the LLC. And then if they need to transfer more money out, they use an invoice to do so.
And that goes to the LLC. The LLC,
Right. And then if the LLC is making too much money, it's going to receive an invoice from the corporation. The invoice, the LLC is going to pay that money back to the corporation. What do
right?
you want? What do you want to control besides assets? Not besides assets. What's the most important asset you control? Money.
Oh,
So if you've got money left over in the box, how do you control that without having to pay taxes on it? How do you legally move it? There's
right.
only
That's one
one
way.
legal way to reduce cash taxes, and
Right. And you have 401ks that can also do things like that.
that's right. But it's an expense. It's a cash expense, right?
The 401k, it can take this money
If you
back and use it in the business when it needs it. Otherwise, it's a tax deduction.
Actually, it's only a tax deduction to the corporations. LLCs can't do 401ks.
Yeah, to the corporation, it's
Has to
an
be to the
expense.
corporation, correct. And so instead of doing a 401k, if the corporation has too much money left over it, remember we've got two different tax years. We've got
Right.
calendar and we've got offset. So let's say we start the corporation in April and we start the LLC and it ends in December, right? December, November, December, we meet with the CFO, and the CFO shows that they're making too much money. The corporation then sends an invoice to the LLC. The LLC pays that money. Now the owner of that corporation gets to retain that extra cash and can use it to build the business until it's time for them to declare taxes.
The owner of the corporation is the trust.
Right, but who manages the corporation?
So the manager.
Yes.
So language is super important when you're this complicated.
Yes, that's correct. It is
Okay.
very important.
So does anybody have any other questions? Because we're at the top of the hour and I think
Peggy,
this is
I'm in
fascinating.
I'm in a location with a lot of background noise. I sent you a private question. You can ask that. I don't want to, because I'm in a location with a lot of background noise.
Okay, well, we don't really hear it. Oh, so Eugene said we have a holding company LLC that has an interest in our businesses, another
think-
LLC. Should he be restructuring so the holding company is a C corp?
No, the IRS does not like holding companies because the holding company now becomes passive income and not active income because it's not earning money. It's just there to control businesses. And just recently, the government over the last year has come up with a new rule, and they're requiring all businesses to submit what's called a beneficial owner information report. They want to know who owns it and who's in control, right?
Yeah.
And it has,
And I hate that.
yeah, you and I both.
I'm saying right now, even with the background noise, I'm going to come out and say I hate that. Yeah.
We do too, Eugene.
I thought that the government or the somebody stepped in to stop that.
No, there was a court in Texas that put a hold on it, told them to hold it, but the government took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld it.
Oh,
But now the Treasury
Oh.
Department just came out with a notice saying we're not going to penalize anybody for not filing the report.
yeah, well, I filed it back in January.
Me too. So, but the idea is this, right? If you've got these companies that remain separate, then you don't have to worry about that. We don't want a holding company, Eugene. It's got to be an active, earning money company. So it's got to be active, and it's got to be the income isn't passive. Passive income can only be reduced by passive losses, right? And corporations can write off certain things that LLCs can't, and vice versa. So the LLC owns the real estate. Corporations doesn't own anything, but the corporation makes the money. They're the brand. Just like going skiing. I'm from Utah. I ski. When I'm up on the mountain slopes, I've got a jacket on. Nobody sees me. I've got a face mask. I've got goggles. I've got everything covered, right? That's my outside brand. But underneath it, I've got a whole bunch of different layers. If I fall down the mountain and I jam a big branch pokes a hole in my jacket, I don't try to patch it. I'm going to go down to the ski shop down at the bottom of the hill, and I'm going to throw the jacket away, and I'm going to buy a new one, and I'm going to start all over again. We want you to do the same thing for the corporation. Owns nothing. If somebody comes after you, shut the sucker down and walk away. Owns nothing, owes nothing. It's there to earn money, and that's it.
And on that note, we are saying thank you very much for being here.